Going live.
Welcome to Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp. Join Mary as she tickles your taste buds with her salty wit and her exceptional palate, all whilst guiding us through the land of low sodium living. Of course, Living Low Sodium brought to you in part by the support of Reeses Barkery Pawtique. Check them out at reessbarkery.com. Give them a call at 815-363-7297 because your fur babies need to live healthy as well. Today, happy is healthy. Welcome back.
It's funny because I just noticed. Did you see my background?
Yeah, right.
It's this psychedelic back. No, the thing on the thing.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Thing.
No, yeah.
You
got the tie-dye going.
That's okay.
That is good. Bring that back up. Look
so
at that. It's beautiful tie-dye.
I, of course, am multitasking.
Oh, good.
I have people swinging from my trees at my house right now. So
literally,
I have. Give a little quick plug for those of you in McHenry. Mark's Tree Service has done our trees. This is our third house now that he's worked on our trees. And we have metal cables that hold our trees together because they're huge and they're falling apart and whatever. So those all snapped
healthy, though,
the other day. And unfortunately, if those trees do decide to fall, it means they're going to simultaneously take out my house and my neighbor's house. And I like my neighbors. So we're going to do our best to make sure that we can save our big, beautiful tree. So, of course, I'm getting pictures and stuff like that of a bunch of guys swinging from the trees.
Good morning, Nora.
So, speaking of the reason that I had thought about happiness affecting your health and so on today of all days is a lot of people a lot of people that follow the show know, and if you follow my food, you probably know, but in addition to cirrhosis, I have transversemyelitis. Transversemyelitis is a syndrome in which your immune system eats, it causes lesions. So a lesion is nothing different than a paper cut on your finger. That's a lesion. The difference is these lesions happen on your spine and on your brain. The majority of the time, you end up paralyzed from wherever that lesion happens, or it's a sign of MS or some other kind of disease. Regardless, the vast majority of the time, there is some sort of nerve damage. And it made me think of how your happiness affects your health. Because we've had him on the show, Dr. Ron Masakawa. That man has saved me more times than I can count. I've been seeing him for over 20 years now. And before cirrhosis and before transversemyelitis, I've always had issues with my gut. I used to have issues with migraines. He's kept at bay for more than 10 years now. Outside of the migraine that I got when I had COVID, I haven't really had issues. I still get headaches, but I haven't had issues with migraines in quite some time. But you can't explain nerve damage. You can't, you can tell people that it hurts, but I've tried a million ways to explain it, and you just can't. And I remember when my husband he had the infraorbital nerve that runs through your cheekbone, and his face severed when he had a car accident in 2013.
Yikes.
He broke his infraorbital socket, the little nice cheekbone on your face. He broke his nose. So that half of his face was numb.
Yeah.
So every time he would shave, he'd make these weird faces because that little dot in the center of your lip was where the nerve would come, like the sensation came back. So he'd always, when he shake, because it's like numb to feeling. So it's like that tickly spot, but he couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
And everybody's nerve damage is different. And as much as chiropractic care and acupuncture these days for me is not pleasant, I am hypersensitive everywhere on my body. especially where the nerve damage is. So from my shoulder blades, the center point, because the T7 is where my lesions are, T6, T7 in my, so it's about right between my shoulder blades.
Morning, Gary.
From everything from there down is just jacked. That's the easiest way. It's messed up. It's hard to explain. Everything's different sensations. But physically touching me is like if you've ever been to a chiropractor and they run their fingers down your spine, it feels like he's pulling the skin off of my back.
Yeah.
So it's painful, but his fixing my spine, keeping me adjusted, and the needles help relieve the spasticity in my muscles. Going to him every single week, that care is part of my happiness. It's some people meditate, some people whatever. Part of my whole health care and my lifestyle, that's part of it. Because everybody else just wants to put you on, the tie-dye.
It does look good.
It's a tie-dye kind of morning. It's a happy morning.
Right.
We're trying to be happy in light of everything that's going on in this crazy world.
That's right.
Bring a little bit, as much as we can in such a dire time. It's saddening.
Just a little something to brighten up the day.
Right.
Low sodium living.
Right. Remind you that some things suck so bad, like nerve damage. But be happy.
Count your blessings.
It really is. It's funny because the amount of times I've had people say, you have so much. And I don't. I mean, I do. I've said it before. The more weight you give to the stones that you carry, the faster you're going to drown. So everybody says they carry this weight on their shoulders. Well, you give it more weight based on your perception and your feeling of things.
Right.
So I could say I'm partially paralyzed. I could say I'm in pain every day. I could say that I have nerve damage. I could say I have cirrhosis, so I have to watch my diet and I can't drink and I can't smoke. And I'm not an alcoholic, but I like bourbon. I like single malt spale and scotch. And I very much as I knew how horribly wrong it was for me, I very much enjoyed being a smoker. Knowing full well it was going to ruin my teeth, probably give me some kind of cancer. I enjoyed it, much like you enjoy eating cookies or sugar or anything else. But I can't do those. So if you give weight to those things and say, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, and this is how horrible everything is, the more and more weight that you give to those things versus things that are uplifting, it sounds so cliche, but it is very, very, very true.
Yeah.
So I don't have that many things. I have transversemyelitis and I have cirrhosis. And especially now in a time in the world where there are people who have so much more of a burden to bear. Because those people have the same things that I do, yet they're running around with guns trying to protect their home. It's and even outside of that, on a daily basis, even when these conflicts and these horrible things aren't happening, there's still people in this world who that's their life. That's their daily. There's the stuff in their life doesn't go away. So what do you do to maintain your happiness? Diet, acupuncture. I know, Kent, you like your social media breaks.
No, that's sanity, not happiness.
Right. Trying to, I wonder how many people could do what you did and just flat out turn off. Not like I'm not going to log in today or the next couple days, or I'm only going to log in once a day to check it. Like I'm flat out going to disable my account for a few weeks. And then when I feel ready, I'll just turn it back on.
Yeah. I actually had Facebook off for a year.
Right.
Just turned it off.
Right. Oh. So, I mean, how many people can say I could do that without twitching? I mean, what happened remember when a couple of months back when Facebook went down for like 6 hours and the world was like, holy crap, I don't even know how to call someone.
Right. It was very refreshing, and it's amazing how my algorithm changed over that year. And now what I see on there, it's pretty amazing.
Ben and I have a conversation about algorithms on a regular basis because he's super secret squirrel that, he deletes everything. He deletes his history. He goes incognito. So his news feed and his YouTube feed is weird because nobody knows what to send him.
Yeah.
So he's usually searching for something. So he'll literally go on there and say, oh, well, if you search up Ukraine, I'm like, I remember growing up and like something happened and that's all that was on the news.
Right.
You couldn't escape it. So I'm like, I'm going, you shouldn't have to look it up. And it clicks in my head that the reason he has to look it up is because nobody knows what he wants to look at.
Right.
You look at my news feed and it's talking about like funny cats and, grilled cheese recipes and like, and then 2 pages down on Google, I'll see something like, hey, something's happening overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So in my brain, I'm going, it doesn't feel as important as it should be because in my news feed, and it's funny that it goes to show how much that garbage affects your happiness.
Yeah.
Because how you interact with those platforms, they feed. So even if you don't want to look at something and all you want to know is, I am completely naive and I don't know what tulips are. So I'm going to Google tulips. And the next thing you know, your feed's going to be full of that.
Yeah.
So it's funny how something that you would never think in a million years is a direct and very prominent influence on your life is something like the technology that we use in the social media. It's funny you guys were talking about that on In the Know with Steph and Joe, but software and stuff like that. So I think that part of people's happiness has to be to disconnect on a regular basis.
Yeah. You have to unplug.
Or just for the heck of it, search up something different. Search up funny cat videos just so that every once in a while, in the midst of all the garbage that you're looking at, it's something that makes you smile.
Yeah.
Because they have proven that just the act of a genuine smile on your face, regardless of what the cause of it is, you see something funny happen and you laugh, it changes the chemical nature of your body and reduces your stress.
Baby laughing. Just look up baby laughing.
Right?
You can't help.
You can't. You have to be some kind of serious sociopath,
right.
like clinical, registered, on the chart, sociopathic tendencies, if you can't look at babies laughing and at least giggle.
Right. Even if you hate kids.
Right.
It's still.
Although I do have one friend who just the sound of a child, she like has to walk away. It's kind of comical. So I mean, 99%, 99.9%. Yeah. But yes.
Well, a lot of there's a book out there called Chemical Brain Freeze.
Yep.
And it talks about that amygdala back there. That's your fight or flight. And when you feel that, this book talks about taking a deep breath, counting to 5, and then kind of going to your happy place. What is your happy place, right? And understanding how your body relaxes. If you can visually go there, right. It sends different chemicals.
It does, and it's funny because when it comes to those kinds of things, there's so many, especially in the food world. Good morning. There's so many things that can also be detrimental that you think is happy. Mm-hmm. So I was making little notes of, what do you do to maintain your happiness? Like I do acupuncture, take social media breaks. Some people like to go on. I know you like to go vacationing and mountaineering and, outdoors, float around a boat somewhere where no one can find you.
That's right.
Meditation is also a fabulous way. If you've never tried it, even if you only do it for a couple seconds because you can't sit still. It's amazing how hard it is to clear your mind. And once you start learning how to do that, it's a very impressive tool to have in your toolbox, to help mitigate stress in your life. Some people, it's family time. Even though family's chaotic and stressful, to be in your home with your spouse and your kids or your dogs or cats or whatever it is your downtime. And then I put ice cream, because that's one of those things where it could either be a good or a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Like if your happy place is a coping mechanism, you have to be careful because sometimes those are also detrimental to what you're trying to achieve. So
Caramel explosion blizzard. You can't just.
I see I
Yeah,
discovered moose
delicious.
tracks with brownie bites.
Oh, always good.
And it's I actually had this last night. I had some of that last night. So I looked up some actual stuff on happiness, and it's so funny to me. It's a hard thing to test for. It's a hard thing to track, but so happiness actually protects your heart. In 2005, there was a paper that found happiness predicts lower heart rate and blood pressure. Participants rated their happiness over 30 times in one day and again 3 years later. And they showed that it actually does, depending on how you view things. And it's funny because my husband, obviously he knows that I research this stuff. He knows that I talk about this stuff. So as I'm writing this morning, he's like, I know. He's of course your mood changes things. He's like, that's why I'm going to die like 20 years sooner than you are, because he's the most stressed out man on the face of the planet for no reason. But that's how his brain works.
Right.
The funny thing is he recognizes it, and he actually does try to do things to help that. But it's not always that easy to just switch how you, especially the majority of your learned behaviors by the time you hit puberty, they're ingrained.
Yeah.
They're there. They're not going anywhere. You can learn how to cope and change them and reduce them. But very much like if chocolate is something that's nostalgic from your childhood, you can eat less chocolate and you can mitigate those cravings. But then all of a sudden you have a piece of chocolate and it brings back that warm fuzzy because, you had it with your mom or your dad or your sister or whoever, you made, like mine was, my sister always made chocolate chip cookies.
Or the smell of sloppy joes takes me back to my grandma's house.
Mine was fried bologna.
Oh, yeah, delicious.
Yeah. My sisters would argue otherwise.
And not manwich. I'm not talking manwich. I'm talking homemade.
Well, in my house it was manwich, which is why that wasn't a happy memory for me. Happiness strengthens your immune system. Another study, they did 350 adults volunteered to get exposed to the common cold. Yes, they agreed to it. Yes, they got paid for it. Yes, they knew what they were getting into. After 5, and there's a lot more to this study, but this isn't a show about studies. After 5 days in quarantine, the participants with the most positive emotions were less likely to have gotten the cold.
I've heard that.
Actually. The chemical nature of your body and the way things interact, and they're learning more and more about this even now with the COVID research and the T cells and once your antibodies are gone, there's still a certain amount of cellular memory that your body has to fight certain things. It doesn't make it bulletproof, but there's so much to that they just don't know.
Right.
And it's the same. So much of what they're learning comes down to inflammation. I just read a study. There was a protein that they know in your gut that is responsible for the spike in your blood sugars with diabetes. What they didn't know is that it's directly related to how it affects a certain organ in the back of your neck that produces something, a hormone or whatever it is, that also spikes your blood pressure. So they knew that the two were correlated. You have diabetes, typically you have high blood pressure and heart issues, but a lot of time it was associated with your weight and the increased water retention and things like that, because water thins out your blood and your heart has to pump more to get more oxygen and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like a chain react catalyst event, not necessarily knowing the actual root cause of both of those spikes in both, blood sugar and insulin and your heart rate. So they're attaching those two things together. The fascinating thing by that is the end quote in that article is one near and dear to my heart. It says, so many of these medications are just here to maintain and treat these conditions, not cure them. And by having this research to discover the root cause of this issue and say, okay, this receptor is why diabetics have both high blood pressure and high sugar. So if we know it's this receptor, it's not just about losing weight and not just about eating low sugar. there's so much more to it than that, which is why they're learning about the gut biome and immune system. So it's funny to me how something so simple as your mood, reducing the chemical response in your body that stress and anger and all of those and anxiety that cause, by reducing that, does reduce the inflammation, thereby boosting your immune system. Same thing, happiness combats stress. Stress is not only upsetting on a psychological level, but also triggers biological changes in the hormones and in your blood pressure. Happiness seems to temper these effects and at least help recover more quickly from illnesses and colds and flus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they've proven that. You see someone who has cancer. Growing up, we had two friends of ours that one of their parents had gotten cancer. One spent years fighting cancer and she made it through. The other one was like, what am I going to do? Woe is me, my family, and this, that, and the other. All legitimate fears, but they weighed him down and he passed in like 3 months. Is it possible that they had two different kinds of cancers at two different stages and one was just more severe and so on and so forth? But there's so many times in my life where I can see that how many times have you seen someone where just their demeanor and that happiness and that positive nature, they tend to heal faster. Now, ironically, there's also a study that shows that cancer patients specifically have a higher mortality rate when they're positive.
Wow.
The thought behind it is their positivity is their downfall. That optimism of, I can beat this, I don't need help, I can do this, or it's not that bad, it's not going to be that bad, so they don't get treatment soon enough.
Gotcha.
That optimism can almost be to their downfall because they're so optimistic that they think that they can beat it, that they wait too long, or they don't take the appropriate measures with the treatment, or they overtreat, so on and so forth. Happy people have fewer aches and pains. This, I didn't even put the study in there because it was too long to take the snippet from. The same thing about that comes back to inflammation. Mm-hmm. The inflammation in your body down to a cellular level. Everybody has it. I guarantee you that unless your teeth are perfect, right now you're fighting a low-grade infection. Everybody. I as someone who spent thousands upon thousands of dollars, I still have to drop another $3,000 or $4,000 here in the next couple months to fix 2 of my teeth. Side note, tell your children to floss their teeth. I don't care if they brush their teeth, just tell them to floss their teeth. Most important thing you can ever do is have your children floss their teeth. Floss. But that low-grade infection causes swelling at a cellular level. Never in a million years would I have thought how, or even begin to comprehend how much that swelling affects all of your body until I had a hole in my spine. So right now, if you and I got in an argument and had a disagreement, even if it was a friendly debate, you like rainbows, I don't.
Yeah.
We're good friends. We agree to disagree. Life is good. That boost in adrenaline and endorphins and all of those things that you have in a natural conversation, even though that's a healthy, good conversation, causes me extreme discomfort. I wish I was a monk. I wish that I could be so even keel. Because like that, even if you were like, hey, guess what? I'm having a baby. Like that, woohoo, endorphin rush. And it affects me for days because on a cellular level, all of that inflammation, good, bad, or indifferent, I have an active hole in my spine, which means all of that fluid and juices and whatever can poke at you. So the happier you are and the better you have that life balance, the less inflammation and reduction in stress in your body. Happiness combats disease and disability. In 2008, a study of nearly 10,000 Australians participants who reported being happy and satisfied with their life most or all of the time were about 1.5 times less likely to have long-term health conditions.
That's amazing.
And I get it, because I've had people throw it back in my face and go, "You're a happy, optimistic, you're the most optimistic person I've ever met, and you have cirrhosis and a spinal lesion." Turns out that I have some genetic characters that might have contributed to that. So had our genetic understanding been more advanced,
Sure.
and it's problematic because so many people put the fear of God in you when they say, well, you've got a 0.2% chance more likely to have Parkinson's than you spend the rest of your life thinking you're going to get Parkinson's. But as those genetic researches and knowledge improve, to say simply, you know what, maybe as your kids get older, you should advise that they don't drink because they're missing this enzyme, and they're probably going to have, it could cause liver disease, because I have that genetic marker. Does it mean that if I hadn't drank, would I still had liver disease? Who knows? There's so much that we just couldn't even begin to explain about the human body, but that knowledge is useful to have. So yes, the reducing, if you're a happy person, the chances that you're going to have a heart attack at 40 is probably less. Does it mean that you're not going to have a heart attack at 40? Probably not.
Well, you take a look at grandma who lives in Alabama, rolls her own cigars and brews her own whiskey, and she smokes straight cigars and drinks whiskey every day. She lives to be 105.
My mom.
And then
she doesn't roll her own cigars, but
then you have Jeremy, who jogs 5 miles a day, is in a high pressure job, and is stressed out and dies of a heart attack while he's jogging his 5 miles at 40.
Yep. And when they say ignorance is bliss, it really is.
I'm very bliss.
Now.
Very blissful.
But it is. There's a certain amount of, like, you can think of how wound up you get over certain things and how it makes you feel afterwards. You almost feel hungover.
Yeah.
You get in a heated debate with someone and you're going, oh my God, like,
and
you're going, no wonder why people drink. Like, are you kidding me? And so I get it. But it really does. That optimism, the amount that it helps reduce so many different things in your life, I can't even, I wish it was something that you could portray to others, but until you experience it for yourself, it's very much like my nerve pain. I have Nicole, she's been on the show. She, similar to me, totally different reason. She had an accident. She's got horrible nerve pain.
Yeah.
Same with me. She found alternative methods because the only option for me is to go on gabapentin.
I don't know what that
which is, it's a neural blocker. It's very common for people who have transversemyelitis or MS. It's also used for alcoholics to curb their temptation because it's a neural blocker. So it essentially makes you almost, I worked with someone who was on it, and it's almost like they're intoxicated. They're just very bleh.
Oh.
Because it's a neural blocker.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to, you got to be careful driving. You got to be careful working machinery. You got to, all of these things. And based on how you react to it, much like anything else, some people smoke one cigarette and they're high as a kite. Some people can smoke 16 packs and it doesn't bother them.
That's it.
Same thing. So my options are either go on a drug that's going to mess me up royally, or go see my acupuncturist and have him stick me full of needles.
Another option is tune into 21/6 The Net, where you can get your daily dose of encouragement. No news, no politics, no weather. We try to bring you good stuff just so you can be happy, because happy is healthy. Of course, you're listening to Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp, and that is brought to you in part from our good friends over at Reeses Barkery Pawtique. Check them out at reesesbarkery.com. Good stuff for your fur babies that keeps them happy and healthy as well. How about that for a little segue on happiness? Plug for 21/6.
Perfect timing too. So speaking of happy and healthy and treats and so on, a lot of people, like I said with ice cream, the things that you crave, do they bring you happiness? And on the flip side of that, do cravings Are they an indication of what your body is in need of?
Okay.
Like I need chocolate because I'm low on magnesium. Wrong. I'm sorry. There's
Damn it.
This isn't an opinion.
Right.
I mean, it is my opinion. Based on the information that I've read, there is like zero scientific study.
Yeah.
Not that has been done. There's zero actual evidence, imperial evidence showing that what you crave. There's a few exceptions for, water, salt, food. There's very few things that you crave that say my body is craving pistachios because I am deficient in vitamin E or something.
Right.
Your body, yes, knows what you need, knows that you need it, knows what to store at a cellular level. So if you eat a bunch of chocolate and there's magnesium in the chocolate and your body says you're deficient in magnesium, I'm going to store some of this stuff. Yes, at a cellular level, your body knows what it needs to do. And if it's out of whack, it's going to store more than it needs, which is how you end up getting fat and how you get kidney stones and how you get all these other things, because it's storing garbage that it doesn't know what it needs because it doesn't know when it's going to get it again.
Yeah.
Food cravings can largely be explained by a conditioning response or a learned behavior. So the reason why you crave chocolate is either a conditioned response or a learned behavior.
Yeah.
So you justify it in your mind because if you look and there's a, health.com and a food.com and a eatthis.com and a blah, 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 none of which are scientific studies. They're all blogs written by somebody who's got an opinion that says, yes, if you're craving strawberries, it's because of this.
Interesting.
If you look up if you try and research, I've looked and looked and looked and looked, and there is zero clinical trials or scientific studies that have proven that cravings do anything but a direct. So Pavlov's dog.
Yeah.
A lot of people know of it. They don't know what it is, or they just know it's a thing. It's much to that same thing where he, taught a dog to ring a bell or would drool when a bell was rang because it was related to food.
Right.
So, no. Jen asked, do you think cravings are you're deficient in a particular vitamin or mineral? I don't at all. To know that for your body to know, and this is part of this study, for you to know that I need bananas because I'm deficient in potassium, you need to know that it has potassium. Or you need to not eat bananas for a long enough period of time for your body to know that that's a source of potassium. The mechanism for which your body to associate those two things together, because it's not like you can eat a banana and all you get is potassium from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's there's been studies about it, and it's not. So usually it's when you crave something. So let's say every time you sit down to eat, watch a movie with your kids, like it's kid night, you got your girls, happy, fuzzy, warm feeling. You don't get to see them all the time anymore. And since they were little itty bitty babies, they helped you make a bowl of popcorn.
Yep.
So now every single time you have a bowl of popcorn. So now if you stopped having popcorn in your house because your kids are growing up and they're gone, your girls come over tonight and say, let's watch a movie. And you're going, we should get some popcorn. You're not craving popcorn because someone did an article that says you're really craving salt because you're sodium deficient. Or, you need fiber because popcorn has fiber. Yeah. You're craving it because of a conditioning or a learned behavior, much like chocolate, where everyone says, oh, well, as a girl, when you're menstruating, you're low in iron, you're low in this, and chocolate has all those things. They're in such negligible amounts for the amount of chocolate you have to eat to actually obtain. You're better off eating a banana if you're menstruating and taking an iron pill or eating a steak. Like
all the above sound good to me.
Right. Me personally, I feel like I don't like bananas, but the steak, hell yeah.
Steak up. There we go. I also heard from a Big Ten wrestler. This is years ago. He was a Big Ten wrestler back in the 80s, who always, had to watch weight. Usually when you're craving something, you should drink water because your body's mainly made of water.
Correct.
And you're probably dehydrated.
Correct. Most people do not know the difference. Like if you sat here and felt a craving, regardless of what you feel. You feel
we'll go with the
that
popcorn
rumble
thing.
in your tummy that says, hey, I'm hungry. Chances are you're thirsty.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've been doing this. Remember how I talked about the 6-minute challenge?
Right.
For those of you that don't know my 6-minute challenge, every hour, especially now that so many of us work from home, every hour, get up, move around. I'm not saying you need to run around your house and get your heart rate over 300 million parts per million, beats per second, whatever it is. Get up, move around, and then drink a glass of water.
Mm-hmm.
Not 12, 16 ounce, just even if it's a little tiny, even if it's only 4 ounces of water, drink some water. And I pee a lot more.
Yeah.
But holy cow, my cravings are diminished. My water retention is less because it keeps my kidneys flushing my system more regularly versus just slamming a big glass of water because I haven't drank any water today. But you're 100% correct on the craving aspect that most times when you're craving something, it's sadly to say food, water, or salt. It's not necessarily one specific thing because you're void in you're deficient in any kind of vitamin, mineral, or protein or something of the nature.
I'm lacking in Snickers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's funny. The chocolate thing is cultural justification. So a combination of the fact that you've always been told that, women are crazy and after we menstruate that, just give us some chocolate and it'll make us happy. So as a little girl, if mom always gets chocolate from dad because this is the week that she's crazy and she's crabby, which she probably is. She's in pain, she's uncomfortable, she's bloated and feels like garbage on top of everything else we have to do in our lives. So he brings her chocolate, which makes her happy because he brought her something and thought of her and made her warm and fuzzy. So now as a kid, you see this. So you have this justification in your mind that it's okay to stray from my diet. It's okay to do this because it's that time of the month and this is going to make me happy. Huh. Yeah. So you have this condition, you have this learning, and that's what causes those cravings. Subsequently, the studies do show that the less you succumb to those cravings, the less you will crave them. And you can also learn better behaviors. So if you've always sat with a bag of potato chips or, chocolate or something when you're sitting down with your girls to watch that movie, if you sat and watched the movie with something like popcorn that isn't loaded with butter and salt, but loaded with something else for seasonings, right? If you choose those healthier options, you can elicit that same happy feeling from snacking with a better snack option. So it doesn't have to be the cravings for garbage. If you can't stop or recondition your brain to not have those cravings and to snack on things and eat things, and if that truly is your happy place to have some kind of snack, there's very many times where instead of having ice cream at night, I do yogurt and honey. Oh, yeah. It's still something creamy and sweet, and it's much better for me than anything else.
Gary says, this was not taught in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate.
Dude, I would take a swim down that chocolate river. Like, I'm not saying don't succumb to your cravings for chocolate. You just, like always, anything else, you got to be aware of what you're eating and when you're doing it and so on and so forth. So just for, what is this, Kathy? What about intuitive eating where you eat what you are desiring at the time? And should we eat what we don't enjoy so much, but it's healthier? Mm-hmm. That's a tricky question. I'm trying to. You need to, when I'm trying to read something and not have radio silence, because even though we're on Facebook Live, we are a radio show, so we can't be silent at the same time. Should we eat what we don't enjoy so much, but it is as healthy? So I eat bananas and I hate them. Yeah. I eat bananas every single day. I despise it. I pout like a little girl that just had to eat her lima beans. I do it because it is the fastest way for me to get what my body needs, not because I intuitively know it or because I crave it, because I know that the cramps in my muscles and my headaches are related to my potassium deficiency. And for me, the fastest way to do that is to get a banana without having a sugar spike, because the greener the banana is, the lower it is on the glycemic index. But all of those things are because I've educated myself about the bananas, not because my body intuitively knows that a greener banana is better for me than a yellow banana or a brown banana, because instinctually I will crave the brown banana, because at a base level, if you want to go back, the reason why we go after sugar and why everybody wants sugar and why that sugar, it's not necessarily a craving because we need something. It is a direct response in a learned behavior that is through evolution, because sugar is free energy, which is why you have a spike and you fall. But in a time when in the course of a day, you might, find 3 peanuts and some water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To find a honey pot and have honey means you have free energy. So it's not so much that your body is craving that sugar because it knows what's in the sugar and you're missing iron or you're missing whatever. It's craving the sugar because that's energy. It's the same lines as you need water, you need food to live, and then your body stores what it needs from whatever you get. Not so much that it's going to go, hey, can you go over and eat that type of grass because it's got this type of nutrient or it's higher in, magnesium or manganese or whatever than the other grass over there. So if you're standing there and you're looking at your cabinets, it's not necessarily that your body knows you're deficient in one vitamin and that's what makes you pick the apple over the banana.
Right. Kathy says, I feel the same way. White bread and tomato sandwich reminds me of childhood, but I choose whole grain breads now because it's better for my body.
Right. And that tomato sandwich is still delicious, even on that whole grain bread, because I am right there with you. Like an old school.
Are you Miracle Whip or are you a mayonnaise person?
So now mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. I like mayonnaise too.
I grew up a Miracle Whip.
Yeah.
Which is just salad dressing.
Right.
It's not meant to be on a sandwich, but that's what we grew up on.
That's what we did.
So horribly, horribly nutritionally void, bleached as bleached can get white bread with nothing but sugar and fat, Miracle Whip, with tomatoes, which is the best part of that, part of that entire sandwich. But you're 100% correct. So that's the thing is, to make healthier options doesn't mean you need to eat things that you despise in hopes to learn. Because I have been eating bananas religiously since 2015. I like banana bread. I still don't like bananas.
Yeah, listen to this. Gary says here in Southeast Asia, we have a snack where we take the slightly unripened bananas, dip them in batter, and deep fry them. They emerge with a crispy skin and soft, oozy interior. That just sounds delicious.
If I would eat the crap out of that, because
I'm telling you, that sounds great.
I don't even, and that's the thing is, I don't like bananas, but I eat them all the time because and I've had people tell, like, yes, there's other foods like avocados.
I love bananas.
I could get the same thing that I get from avocados that I do from bananas. But it's not very easy to crack open an avocado in 30 seconds before I go to work or when I'm, at lunch and just eat, like when I was still at the store. I can't step off the sales floor and eat an avocado in 30 seconds.
Right.
I can peel a banana, eat the banana real quick. I get what I need. It sustains me and I don't have a sugar crash.
Keep moving.
And now I want a tomato sandwich. Thanks a lot.
You know what, though? The key to the tomato sandwich is the thickness of the slice of the tomato.
Not ice cold, because it ruins the texture of tomatoes. Don't put your tomatoes in the refrigerator. Nice, cold, thick sliced tomatoes. Yeah. And yes, occasionally I will actually put some sea salt on them, as long as I know I can afford it that day. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, a tomato sandwich it's a thing of necessity when you don't have a lot of food in the house, but I wholeheartedly.
It's, you know what, though, too, and I'll say this on behalf of all tomato sandwich eaters, it's like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Your mom always makes them better. or your grandma always makes them better, right?
So that's actually scientifically proven.
Is that right?
It was probably literally maybe 4 weeks ago. Because I do, you guys, I'm such a geek when it comes to all of this stuff. It doesn't matter if I'm trying to learn stuff, like now that I'm doing insurance.
Yeah.
In my downtime, I geek out on all of this crap. So I'm reading study after study after study and publication after publication. So they did a study about that, about why if I make a sandwich, it tastes good, but if my husband makes it, it tastes amazing.
Yeah.
Same house, same ingredients, same stuff. It's not like we went to a restaurant and they have some fancy bread, or it's our house, it's our kitchen. He just made it for me. When you make something for yourself, your brain is going through that process. So it's almost as if your brain tastes those things as you're making it.
Huh.
So I have the bread, I have the ham, I have the cheese, I have the tomato, I put it all together and I take a bite of it. So it tastes good, but because your brain has gone through the motion of everything that's on there, it already knows what's on there. It's much like you can't tickle yourself.
Right.
You can try. Go ahead and try. And if you're ticklish, try tickling your feet. You can't do it. And when somebody else makes it for you, even though you know at the core level what's on that sandwich, you don't know. Yeah. So you have to taste all of those things to say, did he remember to put mustard on my sandwich? Oh, he put spicy mustard on my sandwich this time. You have to discover all of those things.
Right.
Through that discovery, it makes those things taste better.
Gary says the Thais have a variation of the snack. The peeled bananas are deep fried and then steamed. They are then served piping hot with carnation milk and sugar all over it.
That like sounds horribly bad for you and so amazingly tasty at the same time.
Minus like the banana. Hot, so soft banana pudding.
In Singapore, though, are they doing bananas or are they doing plantains? Because I know plantains have a little bit different texture and flavor to them. So I wonder if they're doing bananas or plantains.
Kathy, and this is something I may try. Kathy says that boiled green bananas taste just like potatoes if you add some butter on the plate. Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
So as fruit, or most things, as they ripen, the structure changes and a lot of times they get sweeter, especially with fruits, mm-hmm. which is why the riper the banana, the more brown it is why they make good banana bread, because that banana and sweet flavor is so pungent. And why when you have greener bananas, the sugars haven't developed yet. So it's more of a fibrous type fruit that's lower on the glycemic index because the sugars haven't produced. So if you're a diabetic who loves bananas, you can still have them. You just have to eat them on the greener side.
You slit them and boil in the skin. Thanks, mm-hmm. Kathy. I was just going to ask. And Gary says, bananas over here. But this part of the world is usually bananas, mainly from the Philippines. Yeah, mangoes, too, from the Philippines. Come on, let's be real. Right?
I still remember one of my best friends was, her husband was stationed in Okinawa. Yeah. And I had posted a picture of some salad, mango chutney, I think I made. Yeah. And she sent me a bunch of messages about how evil I was because they couldn't get mangoes over there. So she sent me a picture the next time she was at the grocery store. 2 mangoes were like $22 or some garbage like that because of where they're at. They have to transport them there. It's like impossible.
Jen asks, do you have a garden at home? And is there a favorite fruit or veggie that you grow?
I do. And there is. So sadly, I have discovered through my food knowledge and my elimination diet and discovering how things affect me that I am sensitive to nightshades. And the 2 favorite things that I love to grow in my garden are tomatoes and zucchini. I make a green tomato and zucchini gratin. So it's layered green tomatoes, a little bit of Parmesan cheese, some breadcrumbs that are seasoned with some spice, some Dax Original Red or something like that. And then more green tomatoes, more zucchini, breadcrumbs, and a little bit of cheese. And then you put some Swiss cheese on top or whatever cheese you want that you can afford as far as the sodium level. And you bake it just like any other gratin. And it's absolutely amazing. So early in the season, we make that. But I have to be careful because they're both nightshades. So depending on how all of my favorite things, tomatoes, potatoes, and zucchini are all nightshades. So the more and they're also all histamine vegetables. So as somebody with allergies, I have to be careful of how many histamine foods I eat because you're literally ingesting histamine into your body, which means if you're going, holy crap, why are my allergies so bad this year? And then you think about it and go, oh, I had tomatoes on here and I had this on there. So all of those vegetables that have the little tiny flowers that they pollinate, most of those are going to have that histamine issue. But yes, I do have my garden and I love it. And I also have herbs. This will be the first year that I have my herb garden where I'm going to try and dry them to make my own herb blend.
Nice.
So because we are trying to be happy, feel good, and bring as much happiness and joy in the world right now as all the garbage will allow us, I pulled up some fun food trivia facts just for the heck of it.
All right.
So garlic helps prevent heart disease as it helps lower the level of what in our blood? See, you cheat because you have the answer.
I do. I mean,
he's
I
got
would
the
not
answer.
have guessed this.
I wouldn't have guessed it either because I know everybody knows garlic is really good for you. Or at least most people know that garlic is really good for you. They just don't know why.
I love it.
It helps lower your blood cholesterol.
Huh.
Raw garlic helps prevent heart disease. It is said that taking 1/2 to 1 clove of garlic a day can decrease cholesterol levels by 10%.
So maybe vampires just like cholesterol.
Right? Maybe that's why vampires are immortal.
That's it.
They have low blood pressure. That's funny. Which is the only edible food that never goes bad?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is they have estimates. They guess why. But honey never goes bad.
Yeah.
The thought is that because the moisture content is so low that it's hard for bacteria to grow in there. But the same reason that they don't know why, that being that honey is pretty much just sugar, why it's so good for you. It never goes bad, which
it gets hard, some crusty sometimes. You got to just heat it up a little bit and some boiling
water. It crystallizes. Yeah. The sugars in there crystallize. Usually, I think it's the more raw the honey is, the better chance you have of that happening, just because it hasn't been filtered and processed.
Interesting.
The more filtered the honey is, then the less chance it has of those things happening. It also depends on the bees and what flowers and stuff that they were pollinating to produce the honey, because you'll also notice that honeys are different colors and different flavors. Yeah. So, okay. The purpose of ketchup during the 1830s was for what?
I knew this one.
I did not.
I knew this one.
I was laughing thinking about you guys in your show the other day, like, take some cocaine and it'll cure this. Like,
toothache.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, here, give your kids some bourbon.
Right.
I mean,
or just rub a little on the gums.
Right. I guarantee you that my grandma was probably rubbing bourbon on my gums as a little girl. Maybe that's what started it. The purpose of ketchup during the 1830s was for medicine. Yeah. Ketchup was claimed to cure illnesses like indigestion and diarrhea. They were even sold as tomato pills. Could you imagine taking a spoonful of ketchup? And I like ketchup, but like, here, take a spoon. Just a raw spoonful of ketchup makes me gag. Let's see here. This one surprised me. This one really surprised me because the coconut craze right now, I thought it was, it seems to be dying down. The whole coconut can cure everything. What unlikely medical use has been found for coconut water?
I don't know.
Since coconut can, it cures everything, and put coconut oil in this, and put coconut oil in your coffee on the keto diets and stuff like that. Coconut water can be used as a substitute for blood plasma in emergencies. It's not identical to human plasma, but in medical emergencies, coconut water can be used. However, it's not suitable for people with kidney problems because it's higher in sodium. I don't like coconut. I had a bad weekend with some Malibu rum.
Oh.
So coconut's out for me. It's funny how I think my mom's is Sambuca. But the coconut water, it's not high in sodium in the fact that, people who drink coconut water have to be careful. I wouldn't even have thought that coconut water had sodium in it, but a cup of coconut water, depending on where it's from, is anywhere from 90 milligrams to like 200 and something.
All my life, I thought it was coconut milk because that's what it was on Gilligan's Island. I always thought there was milk in there.
Nope.
It's just water.
It's just water. And it's the only reason they call it coconut milk is if they take the coconut water and blend it with the coconut chunks to make it that creamy consistent. So I made the mistake of putting almond milk in my coffee yesterday because it wasn't an almond milk creamer. It was just almond milk, which isn't really a milk.
Right.
So it's separated.
Yeah.
So I had these chunks of almond. It's so gross.
So Jen says, I have a jar of coconut in Florida. I rub the stuff all over after the first day in the sun. Straight from the oil aisle from Trader Joe's. And Trader Joe's, thanks for tuning in. You can send your check too.
Sponsor us if you like.
That's right.
This one I knew. The stickers on fruit, your fruits and vegetables, like the little stickers on oranges and apples and stuff, are edible.
This I did not know.
Stickers are placed on your favorite fruit, are typically fine to eat. So you don't have to freak out if you accidentally eat one. That being said, you don't necessarily you need to eat them.
Right.
But I forget what it was. There was something that I kid you not, my husband was laughing. I thought for sure he was gonna pee himself. I forget what it was. It was some snack, a cake or a cookie or something it had the plastic wrap around it.
Yeah.
And I was starving and I cracked it open and we're sitting on the couch and he looks next to me and I was like, you want a piece? And he's like, wait a minute. Did you eat the plastic? In my haste, I was so excited to eat whatever it was I was eating that I legitimately pulled it a little bit out of the plastic bag and took a bite of it, and I took half the plastic bag with it and I didn't even know it. So you could see these little teeth marks out of the plastic bag, and he was, oh my God, he was dying laughing. I didn't live that one down for quite a while. I wish I could remember what it was, but I thought it was so funny that I ate a piece of the plastic bag that I didn't even know.
How do you
Here we are trying to be so good about things and reduce plastic in our world, right. And you're consuming all these bits of plastic if you drink out of plastic cups and all this stuff, and here I am screw it, I'm gonna eat it right with my cookie. Oh, it was so funny.
Hilarious.
But yeah, they did that because obviously if you think you've cleaned it and you think it's gone and you give an apple to your kid to eat, or he just picks it off the counter and your kid eats an apple, so the paper and the adhesive is all food grade in case. So it's not so that people can intentionally eat them. It's because, for the safety when you're putting stuff that sticks on your food, that it needs to be food grade.
Gary says that they use the coconut milk over there for curry, and they use the gratings for making desserts. If you've seen the New York Times Singapore curry cooking video, that is not us. We Singaporeans deny the existence of the New York Times lady Clarissa as an Asian for her video. That's
hilarious. I'll have to look it up.
That's funny.
That's too funny. So this one I was shocked by, and those of you that live in this area, I'm super excited if you're a fish lover to try. I've known about it for a while, but I guess I didn't really put two and two together until I met the man and have gotten to become friends with him. He's a fellow Rotarian of mine. Lake Julian. It's trout. You can go there and catch it, and it's a naturally spring fed, so the water is so pristinely pure that the fish are so brilliantly colored. I never knew anything about this. It's right here in Fox River Grove, Cary. So I'm excited to try that. But along the line, so farm raised salmon is naturally white and then dyed pink.
That's interesting. Why?
So wild salmon are naturally pink due to the large amount of shrimp in their diet. Farm-raised salmon eat differently. In order to achieve the pleasing pink color that we all love, salmon farmers add carotenoids or plant pigments to the fish to mimic that food color that we want.
Wow.
Much like cheese being yellow, cheese is not yellow. It's dye. It's a colorant. They put a dye in it to make your cheddar yellow. Yeah. Most cheeses are white, or a variation of white, or with blue chunks because they have mold in them. But I was really shocked to think, I mean, I get it. It's the same with the imitation crab.
Oh, yeah.
That's just pink dye they put on there to give you the warm fuzzies that there's got crab in there when it has zero crab in there.
This last one, I had no idea.
I was actually, this one makes me laugh because of the amount of people who talk about genetically modified foods. Carrots are originally purple. So when you see those, fancy carrots in the grocery store, and there's purple ones and all these brilliantly colored white ones. And according to the National Carrot Museum in the UK, the first carrots looked nothing like they do today. Originally, these vegetables were purple or white with a thin root. The orange carrots that we know and love today are actually a result of genetic mutation in the late 16th century that won out over the original color. So we've been genetically modifying our foods since the 16th century.
Isn't that interesting?
I love that one, but I love all carrots. So I'm bourbon glazed carrots.
There you go.
That's good stuff. Like always, find us on YouTube. Please like and share. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. The more subscribers we have, the more luxuries we have. 216thenet.com and mylosolifestyle.com. And we will see you guys next week.
And hey, remember, happy is healthy.
It sure is. And now I want a tomato sandwich.